How would you do a podcast in like the Middle Ages? Would you just like have the town crier just ring the bell? You just talk to a crowd, get a bard, okay?
Hear ye, hear ye! Welcome back to True Crime Saturdays! Today we delve into the unsolved murder of Pete the Papist.
Pete the what?
Papist.
Oh, okay. Alright. Make sure there wasn't a Ray in there somewhere.
Welcome to the Club F Radio.wave podcast, where Super will be surprising me with our topics from now on.
Hey, I'm fine with that if you want to.
I am not really bothered by it, to be honest, because like
it makes for more sincere talk.
Conversation. You see, I agree, and I think that's the new podcast goal is like, I'll be completely honest, I love the podcast because I feel like it's a good way for fans to kind of get to know us and have a regular like conversation with us. But I hate the connotation of a podcast because like as soon as you think of the word podcast, you think like a really lame talk radio show like created by people that couldn't make it on a regular radio show, let alone like manage one of their own. So like I kind of have mixed feelings about podcasts, right? Whereas ours is really more or less just like a hang-a-lang hour where you get to know us better and we shoot the shit. I like to imagine it as back when I was still living in our old hometown after you had moved, me and Jaeger and Scott would just fucking hang out in my apartment. And that's that, you know, that mood and aesthetic I've talked about us aiming for. So like it's really just a fucking conversational jam session. That's really all it is.
Yeah, and I get that. I know I've said this before. I only listen to two different podcasts at the moment, and one of them is abroad in Japan, which I've mentioned a lot, and then the other one's a kind of newer one that the only other person I know of that watches/listens to it is Artemis, and it's Trash Taste, which is an anime podcast of like three of the biggest anitubers on YouTube, and they're a lot like us. Like they just get on there, like their overall theme is anime, but for like I swear to God, like 6 episodes in a row, they like didn't talk about anime at all. And I was finally at the point where I was like, man, I'm tired of hearing about y'all's college life and shit. Like I want you to talk about some fucking anime. And then they kind of addressed that in the newest episode of it. They were just like, you know, like this is an anime podcast, but we kind of just talk about whatever we want, like whatever comes up. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how we do it. So,
you know, meanwhile, I have actually been listening to some podcasts lately. I am gonna pull up the names of them for anybody who's interested in also listening to them yourselves, but I've forgotten what the fuck they're called. So let's see. One of them is run by an individual named Ashley Christ, and she runs a podcast, I guess called Stream Coach TV. And essentially what her deal is that she started out as a streamer, grew way faster than she expected, and completely transitioned into just coaching people into doing that. But then she recommended another podcast to me that I'm actually going to have to pull up on my Spotify because I don't remember the name of it at all. The moment I heard her talk about this guy, I just went and looked him up. So, like, I just don't have it in my head. The Gaming Careers Podcast with Pete Wilkins. And
yeah, I looked him up that day that me and you were talking about the girl, because I was hella skeptical of her.
And I understand. I like her advice,
like,
but I understand.
Yeah, because she had like an average of like 100 and something viewers, and you know that's leagues more than we have currently. But she also hasn't streamed in 8 months, and I was like, who the fuck's gonna take advice from someone who quit streaming? Like, you didn't exactly hit it big with 100 people. Like, why should anyone listen to you? And then you talked about that other guy, and he averages like 3,000 or 4,000 people, and I was like, okay, this is a little more like it.
But that's the thing. I don't think that she purports to be anything that she's not. I think that she offers a lot of valuable advice, and she has a lot of people on that have that speak from a place of authority. But the only reason I discovered the Gaming Careers Podcast is she just openly was like, I'm not as good as these guys yet. So like I was like, oh well, I'm gonna listen to them too then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shakura says, it's funny that the people Jesse helps for Chrono are bigger than his own channel. It is. Thorlar. I've talked about Thorlar on the stream a couple of times. When we were having a real heart-to-heart once, I talked about our motto being never going viral, and he was like, "That's good. I've gone viral a couple times, and it fucking sucks because people only want you to keep doing that one thing forever now." And I was like, "Yeah, we've experienced that, and we didn't even reap the benefits. Like we just had people wanting us to make Starbound content, and we didn't even get to quit our jobs or do anything cool."
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, some podcasts to check out. Chase, I'm glad to hear you are at least a little bit more interested in the Gaming Careers podcast. I've listened to a couple things on there that I think you would enjoy.
I didn't check them out so much as I just checked out that one guy.
Okay, well, consider...
whatever his name was, I can't remember now.
Consider listening to the story of Pestily, which is his most recent one.
That's him. That's the one I looked up. That guy.
But then also, Seize the Opportunity is probably a pretty good episode as well. I listened to two of them where he had different people on that talked about their experience, and that was pretty cool.
Well, I mean, like, the unfortunate thing about hitting it big at all is, like, when I looked at that Pestily guy, I was like, all right, let's see what this dude does compared to that chick I looked up who I wasn't terribly impressed with. And when I looked at his stats, I was like, okay, he's got... No, you ain't missed shit. We hadn't even really started yet. Don't worry about it. Well, when I looked at his shit, I was just like, okay, so this guy's got like 3,000 or 4,000 viewers, but like all he does is play like PUBG. So like when Ninja and people like that are like, man, you got to get out there and hit the grind. Like they legit mean it. Like you got to play the same game for like 8 hours every fucking day.
Yeah. One of the guys that I listened to on the Gaming Careers podcast by Pete Wilkins was talking about how he was like, I've finally reached a point with my sponsorships that I can play whatever I want now because I'm gonna keep making my money, but I do want to kind of pursue what gaming trends are going to make me more money. I was like, okay, I get that.
Yeah. And I mean, Ninja's to that point now too. He literally just came back to Twitch today.
Yeah, I saw that.
And like he's playing Fall Guys and shit, and people are in chat like, "Oh, Fortnite, please play Fortnite." And like, I feel like for him, like he's finally just like, "Man, fuck Fortnite." like he still likes it, whatever, but like he plays a bunch of different shit now, like Call of Duty and all this other stuff. Whereas before, it was never anything but Fortnite. And like, I don't see how it didn't drive him crazy because I couldn't play. I don't love any game enough to play it as much as he played Fortnite. Like, there's no fucking way.
I think that a feature that Twitch could stand to have is a word filter that doesn't necessarily delete your comment. It just pops up with like an unskippable splash screen that's like, it appears that you have said the word Fortnite. Consider that this streamer might want to do something other than Fortnite, and it just won't go away for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm happy. I know a lot of people hate on him, but like, I'm happy to see him get to play something besides Fortnite. Like, I'm not a huge Fortnite fan, but I'm also not one of those Fortnite just haters either. Yeah. But like, I'm glad to see him get to do something different because I mean, he started as like a Halo pro and devolved down to Fortnite. So
ultimately, I can't shit on anybody that does stuff like Fortnite or Tarkov or whatever because they've found their game. Like, we haven't even found our game. Like, we have limited positive vibes with some games until they're done, and it's hard to capture that same magic in a bottle for a co-op oriented like channel because basically all co-op video games become really stale. Like, competitive ones not as quickly, but co-op ones really, in my opinion, become very stale.
Yeah, like if I was super good at Halo, I think I could stand to play like SWAT like a long time on stream. Like I'm better than a lot of people I know, but like if I got up in with the people who's like Onyx ranked and all that shit, they'd whoop my ass. Like that's all there is to it. Because like the highest I've ever been ranked was like Diamond 4 or some shit, and then after Diamond is Onyx, and then after Onyx you're in the top 200 players. Period. So. Like, I've only ever been up to Diamond 4, and past that, I would probably just get demolished. So,
One thing that I'm going to start doing, though, is so I've been wondering if you could do this, and you may have told me and I just forgot, but you can straight up hide the viewer count in OBS. You just click on the eye and it just says viewer count hidden. And that's a piece of advice I've heard from both podcasts is stop looking at the fucking number.
Anymore.
Yeah, like don't look at that fucking number and just hang out, because your channel's gonna grow because your community is growing. And I thought that was something unique to us, but that's how it fucking works.
Yeah, like I'll glance at it every now and then, but like I quit taking it seriously a long time ago when we realized it wasn't right.
Yeah.
When it was just like, yeah, this may or may not be correct. I was like, oh well, fuck it, I don't care. I'll look up there for a general idea.
I think my anxiety makes me eyeball it more, but now I can just fucking hide it and it won't matter. So I'm down with that.
Glance at it, but like I don't really fucking care.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's try and get this going now. All right, let me think of an intro. Welcome back to the Club F Radio. I'm burnt out. This is the podcast where that's where you pick up.
All right. This is the podcast where we're going to talk about creative burnout, gaming burnout, and just what it feels like to be absolutely fucking done with something. Am I right?
No.
Not at all.
Just scrap all that. You know what they say? If you want to get to the horse, you got to bite through the saddle. So anyway,
I think you're doing pretty good at this. Try to get Jesse to laugh intro, and I want you to keep it up.
Who says that? Who is they? Now I heard that today at work, like completely out of context, and I was like, I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna keep that one. Anyway, all right, let's see if I can get a real one going now.
Okay, all right. He's gone.
I'm gone. I'm a ghost. No. All right, I'm just gonna blurt one out. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Club F Radio. I'm Super64, your host, and today I'm joined, as always, by Jesse, or Jay Gatsby, as you may know him. How have you been, man?
I've been all right. No, that's a lie. I've been morbidly depressed. I've not been great, but I'm getting past it, and I'm trying really hard to really cherish the time I work on hobbies, because more than likely it's going to be the only time I'm really fulfilled for a while until I get to leave this job.
Man, yeah, like I kind of get those vibes, like I ain't gonna pretend I'm in as bad of a hate my job place as you might be.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely ready to move on. So like I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try to stick out my 10 years, because if I do that, I have that retirement forever, and then I can go somewhere else. So I get where you're coming from. But today maybe we'll talk about some shit that's a little more lighthearted. What I know we've already kind of covered this a little bit. We've talked about the new consoles and such, but we can talk about this for a little bit and then just transition into talking about whatever if we want to, if we run out of stuff to say. But I kind of wanted to break down each company again, and I wanted to just be like, let's fix them. And
what
sparked this was Nintendo here recently with the Mario pack and just the general shit they do that the fans still eat up. I was just like, man, let's have a podcast where we just fix Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, because like they all do shit people don't like. Like, Nintendo's not the only one. They just happen to be the worst, in my opinion, of doing like anti-consumer shit.
Yeah.
So we'll save Nintendo for last, and we'll start with let's just start with Sony. Fuck it.
Okay. Welcome to the fucking patch notes. We're gonna go ahead and fix this shit right here and now. Sony, for me, the very first bullet point I'm gonna have in the patch notes is we realized that our console looked a little bit like an F-Zero racer. So that is one of many possible exterior shells to the console. I can't really think of anything else off the top of my head other than thinking that this console looks a little foolish.
Oh yeah, and I agree. I think all three new. Well, there's not three. I'm counting the Switch in this, but it looks fairly normal by standards, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it just looks like a big DS really with one screen. So it's pretty common looking handheld. But I think the new Xbox Series X and the new Series S and the PS5 all look fucking terrible. They absolutely do. Like, the PlayStation 5 is a damn router. The Xbox Series X is a fucking refrigerator, and then this new Series S that's finally been announced and everything looks like a little tiny speaker. Like,
yeah, it's definitely strange.
I cannot believe with that design they didn't decide to put the Xbox, like, the X that's on the controller.
Yeah,
like their new
circle.
like curved. Yeah, their new curved looking X. Why the fuck isn't that on that vent? Like, that would look so much better than just it looks like a speaker. Like,
Shakuras has posted a picture of a fucking ghetto blaster boombox.
Yeah, I've seen that one. Anyway, we'll get to them in a minute. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're right now
here
on PlayStation. Well, to be honest, PlayStation is going to be the hardest one for me to provide any sort of feedback for, mainly because I haven't seen PlayStation do a whole lot of anything that has made me go, that's stupid. But I guess it's a great place to start because I really have to try to pull. So why don't you go ahead and dig into that, and maybe I can think of some more problems I have with it from there.
Okay. I'll, like, I haven't always been the basically Sony fanboy I am now, but if I had to say I'm a fanboy of one of the three, it's definitely PlayStation, because I've played my PS4 a ridiculous amount more than both my Xbox and my Switch. So they're by far in the lead for me this current gen. Last gen it wasn't that way for me. I didn't have a PS3 until it was almost over with. Like, I bought a PS3 in like the last year of its life because that fucking system had no games. Like that was a meme for a long time. PS3 has no games. Like, you'd see it everywhere, and it was true. Like, Final Fantasy 13 came out. The game sucked ass. PS3 came out, or it had some good stuff towards the end, like The Last of Us and things like that, which is like the time I owned it. So the PS3 was kind of a big letdown. They made that ground up big time with the 4, but something they do that I hate, or hated until recently, you couldn't change your name for the fucking longest time.
Yeah, oh my god, that took so long. I feel like it was a full 2 years after the initial rumor mill started spinning that you were going to be able to change it.
Yeah, and I mean, great that we can change it now, but like, it takes them too long to implement shit is what I'm trying to get at here. It takes them way too long to implement basic things, and I'm not a network engineer, so like I can't comment on whether or not they were lying straight to our faces and being like, it's the architecture, it's just too damn hard to do, and we got to figure it out. Maybe it was. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe they were just fucking lazy. But either way, it took them way too long to implement that, whether they had the resources. I know they had the resources and the manpower, but like, it took them too long to get around to it. And then something else I think they need to do desperately, and I'm kind of expecting it in the next couple weeks, like, PlayStation Now kind of sucks.
PlayStation Now, I feel like they need to go ahead and just call it quits on that one personally. But I don't know what the figures are for how many people are paying for it as a subscription service, because that's how that works. It seems to me like PlayStation Now was kind of like Google Stadia before Google Stadia, and people didn't care enough to shit on it, so I guess it worked a little better. Like, I don't know.
Well, here's what I'm expecting in the next couple weeks as a pipe dream. Probably won't happen, but I can dream. I think the only leg up Microsoft has on Sony at the moment is Xbox Games Pass, because Game Pass is fucking awesome. Like, it is legit good, like flat out good for its price. So you can get Xbox Live Gold, which will let you play online, and Xbox Game Pass bundled together now for I think it's $15 a month for them to be bundled. That ain't too bad, a little more expensive than say Netflix or something like that. But if you're big time gamer boy, then you're probably gonna pay for it, right?
Right.
And then you can get the Game Pass Ultimate, whatever, and then that includes PC and Xbox, where you can just have a huge library of games you can play from. I think that's where they currently have a leg up. That's what I want Sony to turn PlayStation Now into. Just combine that with my PlayStation
the whole
Plus
fucking thing.
Yeah, combine it with my PlayStation Plus. Don't stream the fucking game to me like Stadia. Let me download them.
Yeah.
and let me play them locally, and I think they would legitimately crush Microsoft with that. Like, right now, like we'll get to Microsoft in a minute, like I keep saying, but like they've made some fuck ups here lately, like some pretty big ones. So
yeah. Well, something else that you could do as well right now, PS4 and potentially PS5 is the only home console that's actually pushing VR as a feature, and you could kind of roll some like heavy hitter VR titles up in that subscription service of like, hey, are you wanting to try VR, but you don't want to like buy one game and it suck and realize you wasted a bunch of money on VR? Well, you already get all these VR games with your like PlayStation Plus. So, why don't you go ahead and try it like that? And then you might want to buy some from there,
Yeah. And I haven't even really thought about that they're like, I don't particularly care about VR myself.
Right, of course.
I think it's still a meme genre, or I guess it's a genre. Anyway, I still think it's basically a meme at the moment. I think it'll get there someday, but I think we're kind of far from it still. But I hadn't even considered the thought that they're the only ones pushing it. And you're right, they are.
Yeah.
Like,
because there's no attempt at Xbox VR. I feel like Microsoft learned their lesson from thinking that Kinect was going to stick around. Like whenever they really tried hard to push Kinect into the Xbox One and people just backhanded that as hard as they did, they went, you know what? We only do controller shit now.
Yeah.
So.
But like, okay, I know something else Sony is pretty shit at, in my opinion. The interface for the PS4 is trash.
Yeah.
Like, visually it looks fine. Like, I actually love the way it looks. It's kind of similar, or the Switch is kind of similar in the same way, but the interface is fucking slow. It's laggy. Opening up the store sometimes takes fucking forever.
It's a real pain.
I'm sitting here on a PlayStation Pro or PS4 Pro, so like it's not like you can say, oh well, you're on an old model, of course it's slow. It's just like, no, I'm on your best model, and this shit still kind of sucks. So like, PS5 better step it up with this crazy SSD they keep, pushing to be like, oh man, we can load the fucking world in 30 seconds. So like, I just want their interface to not suck dick this time around. Like, yeah. I need it to be good.
I agree wholeheartedly. Something else that I wouldn't mind, and this stems largely from a misconception we had because we bought into the promotional material. But when the PS4 was first being launched, they were pushing a lot of these like social media type functions. And I remember, at the time I was having a lot of trouble of like people being like, why didn't you play Call of Duty last night? Well, I didn't really know people were playing. I'm not going to get on every night just in case people are playing. I'm doing other stuff. And so whenever I saw the promotional material, I was like, oh, this is like social network style. Like, I might be able to keep up with people more easily with like posts and like connections and invites and stuff like that being streamlined into a menu system. But then you couldn't really do that in a tangible way for a while because nobody's gonna fucking type using the on-screen keyboard from a controller, number one. And number two, the mobile app for PlayStation is even slower than the actual console interface. So, like, there is a part of me that would like to see them up the ante on that, except kind of what Artemis is talking about. This has also been the generation where everybody just went, you know what, fuck social media. So it might be too goddamn late.
Yeah. Now, I'm not against them having a decent app, that like, oh, I can just quickly check and see if who's playing what. But like you said, I don't want yet another necessarily social media account. Like I don't even the only reason I keep Facebook around now is because it's way easier to organize events that way for when we go to conventions and shit, which this year has been useless. So like I don't even read my Facebook feed anymore because the feed's just full of shit and it's just garbage. So like all I use it for is the events and Messenger to talk to my friends, and that's literally it. Like, if it wasn't for that, I would have already deleted it. But it's so hard to get people to look at Discord.
You are not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong.
And I can just put them in an event group and see when they've seen it and who hasn't, blah blah whatever. So that's the only use Facebook has me right now, so I don't want to add another social network somewhere in the mix.
Well,
like, fuck that.
Something else in terms of features that they kind of tried to implement but didn't implement well. I've used both remote play from PC systems. I've used, Xbox's remote play, your Xbox from PC is actually pretty good because it's all based within Windows 10 and those joint connectivity systems. So it's actually pretty fucking good now. But I remember before I used to have to go deep within the bowels of my fucking admin prompt just to get my voice chat to work every time I did that. However, PlayStation's was always worse. like PlayStation's remote play from desktop app has always been a bag of hot trash. So if Xbox is going to be really pushing this point of bridging Windows 10 PC gaming and Xbox gaming, PlayStation might want to also have a means of continuing your PlayStation experience from the computer. And all it really takes is them taking this application that they kind of jizzed out and left a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, and I think they're slowly moving towards putting their stuff on PC because recently they've released Horizon Zero Dawn, and they've already stated that they want to bring more, but it's fucking Sony again, so it may be 5 years before we see another one.
Yeah.
So they're like we already mentioned, they're real slow about change. So maybe we'll start seeing stuff on Steam at the same time. Like if they released Bloodborne right now, I would buy it immediately. I would pay full price for it again. I love Bloodborne. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Absolutely would buy it again on PC.
Right.
So I don't expect them to go exactly the Microsoft route where their new releases are coming out on their console and PC at the same time, because I feel like that's a bad move. And I kind of feel like that's where, we'll get into that, where Microsoft is shooting themselves in the foot at the moment, but at the same time, they're appealing to consumers who are just like, this is awesome, but it's probably going to be bad for them in the long run.
It just seems like, and I feel like this might be as good a time as any to transition into talking about Xbox. It seems like more and more gamers that I meet that are even close to my age, mostly PC game. So it is almost like Microsoft is like, we're not about to try and fight a war that we're already losing when we could just change sides.
Yeah. Yeah, and I it's hard to fault them for that, I don't know. I had thought of something else that Sony does that I don't like, and I lost it.
Hey, if you really want to, if you think of it later, I'll just splice it into the earlier part of the podcast.
I mean, that's fair. But hold on, we talked about the interface.
I'll imitate your voice and be like, and also.
No, God, no. Oh, I know what it is. I just thought of it. Crossplay.
Oh, crossplay,
cross-platform.
Yeah.
They seem to be the ones really holding it back now.
Yes.
And I kind of used to be on their side a little bit about it because, when Microsoft was in the lead, they were like, "No, fuck you guys, we're not doing cross-platform." And then they got real far behind, and now, the PS4, they're like, "Hey, let's do some cross-platform," and Sony was like, "No, fuck you guys, now we're on top. We ain't doing that shit with you." So I feel like that was okay for maybe that gen. And to get them back for the 360 generation or whatever, but going into this next generation fresh, let's just play nice.
Yeah,
you're already in the lead, Sony, in my opinion, and you're gonna have a decent start at launch. So let's just play nice now, and let's let everybody play with everybody.
Speaking of which, Shakura's asks, wasn't there a glimmer of hope for Xbox and Nintendo crossplay at one point, Minecraft and Fortnite? Yeah, that's well in the past, because Fortnite is finally cross-platform between all of the platforms. You can play with mobile, everything. And before that, Xbox to Nintendo Minecraft crossplay had become a thing. I don't know. I don't think it ever happened on PlayStation, but Sony did finally relent on Fortnite, and now Fortnite's completely cross-platform between all of those platforms, which is good because mobile players are not playing right now because of everything that's happened with that. Yeah. Ugh, that's a mess. We might could talk about that later. Yeah, maybe. Didn't fit in with this.
at the moment. But that's all I can really think of are those points for Sony. Everything else, I feel like they do right. Like they're doing real good on the exclusives front. Like, I know people don't like exclusives these days. They're just like, oh, it hurts gaming. Like, whatever, blah blah blah. I get it, but at the same time, like, that's how they move consoles. Like, otherwise they're not going to sell them. And some people can't afford to build a $2,000 gaming PC.
And as I grow, I realize that this is not new. This is not exclusive to video games as badly as I thought it was. Because I used to bitch and say shit like, well, when a movie comes out, you don't have to play it on your, like, brand exclusive movie player. Yeah, but shows work entirely like this now.
Yeah, and it's the new Mulan movie works exactly that way. If you ain't got Disney Plus, you ain't watching that shit.
Yeah. So, it is kind of the new normal, and essentially, I kind of just have to adopt your policy of, if I really don't want the platform, then I need to just wait until it inevitably comes out on a different platform, which it will. It almost always does. Oh, games is not always a guarantee, but I think that norm is changing, especially with, like, Red Dead 2. Like, the word on the wind with Red Dead 2 from day one was a little different than Red Dead 1. Because Red Dead 1, it was always just this hopeless endeavor. But yeah. I do want to go ahead and dig into Xbox because I can actually think of a few things. But
yeah. That's we kind of already said that, like I'm a Sony fanboy. I don't know what you necessarily fanboy for. If I had to guess, I'd say Nintendo. In a way.
Yeah, and I will fully explain that when we get there, because I understand your skepticism there, but it's because we use those consoles for two completely different things.
Yeah, exactly. But even as much as I support Sony, I flat out pointed out everything that I think they do wrong. Like people in channel have already said, they all suck at something. They all do some shitty something or other.
Yeah.
Like, none of these corporations are your friend. Like, you need to get that through your head immediately. None of them give a fuck about you. They give a fuck about money.
So as we're moving on into the Xbox patch notes, I think they need to establish from day one that just how much of a joint platform this is. Like, I know that we have exposed that tactic of theirs, but it's not really been a key point of their, like, promotional material. And I understand why, because the average PC gamer knows this. They don't need ads directed at that. But the average console gamer just goes, huh? New Xbox, So, I get it. But basically, straight out the gate, I want to see a unified platform for this stuff. I don't know if I want it to necessarily be like Microsoft Store, and I don't necessarily think it will be, because of how Master Chief Collection hit Steam and it seems to be going pretty well. But I would kind of, in a way, appreciate there being sort of a unified system for hanging out with my Xbox friends, because right now in Master Chief Collection, from my end, it's a little irritating, because whenever I try to invite somebody, I can pull up my Steam friend interface just fine, but as for my friends who are playing via Xbox, it's not as... Hold on, I'm getting some background noise. It's not as simple of an interface. It's kind of like luck of the draw whether or not I'm even able to click it or not. Give me just a second. I may close my door.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, baby. I closed my... It's okay.
Yeah, I heard the door shut. Are you back? Like, where did you go? No, he closed himself on the other side of it and he hadn't figured it out yet.
What now?
There he is.
What have I done?
We all heard the door shut and you still weren't back, and I was just like, well, maybe he closed the door on the other side. He's on the other side of it and he hadn't figured it out yet.
No, I decided it was a good time to go pee. I guess to kind of like round up what I was rambling about is that I kind of want that if I'm on my PC and a friend of mine starts playing Halo Infinite, I could theoretically have like an unintrusive little pop-up, so-and-so's playing Halo Infinite, that I could click, and if I have the game installed on my PC, very quickly join that person from PC, and if I don't, but I have an Xbox One, very quickly join them from Xbox game streaming to my desktop. Like, I just want it to be a smooth cross-platform multiplayer experience that doesn't require a whole lot of bullshit bells and whistles. Because right now, as well as the Xbox One streaming works, and as well as that interface seems to work, it is a little bit hackneyed. So I think that would be a good first foot to put forward on that front.
Yeah, and I feel like that'll get better with time, just almost naturally. Because, like, let's face it, the Master Chief Collection is a fucking dumpster fire that they've been trying to put out for like 5 years. Like, so like it doesn't surprise me that joining in that game is a little fucking weird, you know. And it's looking like Infinite might be starting to catch fire too. So you know that's not a good look for them. I guess that could lead into my next point, or my point about Microsoft. Their new console right now, you know what they're pushing with as their launch game, their AAA launch game?
What?
The Destiny DLC. Are you fucking kidding me? Like,
yeah, that's a desperation move. I mean, I know that there are a lot of Destiny fans, and I know Bungie has some selling power, but
that's a big ass oof right there, Phil Spencer. Like, come on, man. Like I know I said it the other day to you, or just behind closed doors, you know, whatever. Someone deserves to be fired over this. Not necessarily Phil, but like they've had a long time and a lot of money put into Halo Infinite, and now they've still had to delay it to miss launch window. Not even miss like their initial, we didn't get the date right, we got to push it. No, this was their system seller, and it ain't coming out with the system. Somebody fucked up big.
I know it's a big fuck up, but when you consider the alternative oftentimes is No Man's Sky, because that was almost the exact same story. Like, they got the deal with Sony for No Man's Sky to be like a big exclusive console title, and then they knew they needed to delay it, but they had already made this huge deal with Sony, and they were too scared to say they needed more time. Like, yeah. I'm kind of glad that 343 was just, hey, we need more time. Like, because I can imagine that being like, do you want your dick cut off? It's just like, I don't know. Do you want your launch title to be No Man's Sky? Yeah. So, I mean, I understand the delay, but, like, it's a massive blow for them. Like either way, you know? Like, it's almost like, it's not as extreme, but it's almost like the game got canceled. Yeah.
You know, it's almost fuck, I can't think of the name of that game that pissed me off. Scalebound. It's almost Scalebound territory, where I bought my Xbox One for Scalebound and the game never came out. They absolutely fucked me on that whole situation. So
yeah,
you know, that thing just collects dust now, and there's no chance I'm buying another one of their consoles.
What's funny is I did not give a shit or understand why you gave so much of a shit about Scalebound until I finally saw some of the like footage of the product that was in development, and I was so mad when I saw that, because I was just like, this game's like nearly done. Like you can see it's clearly a whole concept.
Yeah, and it looked fucking hype. Now, for all I know, it could have sucked ass. We will never fucking know. But like, it looked actually hype. Like it was a fucking like Devil May Cry, like over the top crazy game that you could play with 3 of your friends and ride on dragons and shit.
Yeah, it seemed really good.
It looked legit fun, and like big ass bosses. It was right down my alley, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, this is my system seller. Nah.
Nah. Well, you know, speaking of system sellers, like, maybe it's just me being a jaded old man, but even in light of this Halo delay, like, let's say Halo wasn't delayed and it was their big, like, launch title. What the fuck else do they have? Like, you know,
yeah. Well, I mean, that could be, you know, our next point. Like, I know exclusives is a meme at this point, but like, they've got nothing. Like, Gears isn't what it used to be. I'm personally not into racing games, so I can't really speak for Forza. I don't know if it's good anymore or not. But like, you know, they've got Forza, Gears, and Halo, and that's really it. that I can think of. Now they've got all the multi-plats, but hell, if you're going to get it on the Xbox, if you're going to play Call of Duty on the Xbox, you can play it on the PS5 or you can play it on PC. Like it's not a system seller, so like I don't know what else they have. You know, they bought up all these fucking
indies.
They bought up all these indies. Some of them not even indies. You know, they bought up like a crazy amount of studios, and they've got almost nothing to show for it. Like now they do have Fable coming. But it's not.
Yeah. It's not Lionhead, but thank God. Like I don't want it to be Lionhead. You had your chance.
Yeah. Now I'm hyped for that, but I will absolutely wait however long I have to just play that one on PC. And if it's anything like the rest of their games, it'll be on Game Pass day one. So I ain't got to worry with an Xbox. Like, we can go ahead and get into some more Game Pass if you'd like, because while I think it's a fantastic thing for gamers, I love Game Pass. Like, I think they're almost crazy for doing it. Because, like, if you have even a decent gaming rig and you've got Game Pass, man, you're set. You do not need an Xbox One X or Series S at all. Like, there's no use for it.
Well, I do know that, like, I feel like stuff like Game Pass is almost geared entirely towards people like you who have like the purchasing force of will to go, yeah, I think I would probably play that game, but I'm not going to bother buying it full price. And so Microsoft went, hey, there's like thousands of people who wait to buy games when they're like 90% off. Why don't we just charge them monthly to go ahead and play those games now? Because they're not going to buy them.
Like, and I mean, well, and if they play something they like enough, they may buy it. Because that's exactly what I did with Bloodborne. I gameflied that game, played it for about 2 hours, and I sent it back and went and bought it from Best Buy down the road immediately.
Yeah.
Because I was just like, this is my shit. this is my jam.
Shakura says Gamefly. Man, I fucking remember those ads. I barely actually used Gamefly. I can't even really remember what I played on it. I know... I feel like I may have Gameflied one of the Crackdown games. But I know that you and Jaeger both used Gamefly quite a bit more than I did.
Yeah. I mean, me and you used to share an account.
You see, that might be what I'm thinking of. But
yeah, we shared an account. You paid half, I paid half, and we did the 2 game system. Now, I couldn't tell you anything you got. I can remember several games
I can't remember anything I got at all. And I think it's because, like, either me moving or me just not using it enough to justify it was part of why I wound up having to get off of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I remember now that, like, when I was at my poorest, I was like, Chase, I can't even have internet anymore. Like, I can't be a part of your Gamefly right now. Because there was a solid, like, 3 months where, like, I could only get on the internet at, like, Subway. Because I was just like, my life is a lie. I have a question for you, and this isn't necessarily a patch note, it's just a question. I think I know the answer already, but I'm going to ask it for the sake of the podcast. How do you feel about digital-only consoles?
I actually wanted to talk about that next.
Good.
I think the digital-only PS5 looks a shitload better than the disc drive one.
Yeah.
But I like my physical media. I like to display my collection at my house. I like to have all my game cases like lined up, and I like to be able to see them, and they have trade-in value if you're into that kind of thing. I personally don't ever sell my games back or anything. But I feel like physical media will absolutely be gone pretty soon because they're obviously already pushing it hard with both consoles launching with a digital only, and depending on the sales of those two, I think it'll be gone by like the end of this gen and beginning of next. I think next gen won't even have a disc drive.
I hope that if that's the direction that we're going in, that we do a little bit better with our individual digital rights to those games. Because whenever this last console war started, that was my biggest soapbox, was that it seemed like the industry execs pushing fully digital didn't understand that the entire United States didn't have good internet yet. Because at the beginning of this console cycle, there was still lots of places where it had nothing to do with what kind of internet you could afford. There just wasn't very fast internet available. So if it was like an always-on console that had to do a check-in to make sure you owned your game, you were pretty hard fucked. And this is coming from the perspective of a person who I used to live in a place where the only internet I could get was satellite, and that was damn near impossible to play video games on. It actually caused me to lose well over half of my achievement score on my Xbox 360 because it like didn't back up appropriately. So now that we've seen that done a little bit better, like for example, me and Chase and like Rhett and Ian share our games libraries somewhat using like Steam's family share thing. And if Chase is not playing one of his games, I can play those games and vice versa. I can kind of sort of do that on my Nintendo Switch, but I had to fuck around with it. And that's kind of my point, is that if I am to switch to entirely digital only consoles, that has to be a lot easier. Because right now, like, you know, Chase, I know you've talked about how much of a crock of shit this 3 Mario collection is, but just for the sake of a game to play, there's a chance that I might buy a physical copy of it for the house because Candy and I both like those games, but it will absolutely be a physical copy because I want to be able to easily pass it back and forth between our Switches. And right now, one of the Switches has to be connected to the internet in order to play that game because it has to validate that it's owned. Whereas if I had a physical copy, none of that bullshit is necessary.
Right.
So that's like my thing, really.
Yeah, like this sounds more old school than it needs to be. But maybe they could almost go back to like, I don't want to say a memory card system, but think of like a USB key that like maybe you could buy from them, and it could be like digitally signed by them, and as long as you plugged that thing in, it would just be like, okay, this is this person.
Yeah.
And it could check in that way without needing the internet, but that could so easily be faked. Like like beyond easy.
You know what's funny is it's almost like you're describing an early Blizzard authenticator device.
Yeah.
So not necessarily even a phone app, but at the same time, that's kind of what they tried to do with like the Nintendo app about how you can do your little check-in via the mobile device. And I think I've had to do that once before when I was playing my Switch in an area that didn't have good Wi-Fi, but I wanted to be able to play my game, and I had mobile signal. But that's all I'm saying. I'm not going to be this old man and say none of this can work ever, but it's not working well right now. Because just the fact that I had to say, well, I couldn't play my Switch at the doctor's office because I couldn't get on their Wi-Fi, so I had to pull out my phone and authenticate my Switch. Let me just buy a PSP. Like, if you're going to be like this, I'll just play Twisted Metal. Y'all can fucking suck it.
Yeah, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Now, Nintendo just does some stupid shit in general, which, you know, we're getting there. We're coming for you in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something else Microsoft does that doesn't necessarily just shoot themselves in the foot, but is just like anti-consumer, because like I said, they've kind of turned themselves around in that regard, but I think it's gonna cost them, you know, because I'm just anxious to see the sales of the Xbox Series X and the Series S. Now, hardcore fans are gonna buy it, like for example, our friend Gino. And Gino, if you listen to this or watch it later, sorry, I'm not trying to harp on you, but like, he's got a better gaming PC than all of us. Like, he just upgraded it like 3 days ago, and he's still all about buying the Xbox Series X. And I've tried to just have a casual conversation with him just to be like, fucking why, man? Like, why? And he's just like, well, the biggest part of it is I game share with my little brother a lot, and like when he's and his little brother isn't like super little, like the dude's in college, but like I guess he can't afford his own games because he's a college kid.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, everything Gino buys, his little brother can play. So like, I get it. He kind of wants to do it for his little brother. So like, I get that. But at the same time, I'm just like, man, that's $500.
Well, that's also probably a consequence of having too much money. Like that's really where a lot of my depression has been from lately, because I went from a job that for years I've bought into the bullshit of people saying it doesn't pay enough, to switching to a job that pays less than half that, where everybody I work with talks about how we get paid so much. And it's just like, God, the mindset is so different from here to there. So when you work in a position where like you don't come home too exhausted to play video games, and you have more money than you know what to do with, you buy some redundant hardware sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I can remember when I was still doing that shit, like back whenever I had my fuck around money, before I realized I was going to be homeless if I wasn't careful. I saw a meme earlier today that was one of those wholesome memes of hey bro, let's go get some food. Oh, I don't have any money. Did I ask if you had any money? That was me. I was just like, I want to go eat, so I'm buying you all food. because I just had more money in the sense.
Yeah, and I mean, William's bad to do that too, but he has the money to spend, so you know.
As for the redundancy of it, like I see where you're coming from, and his attitude of, well, this is essentially really for my little brother, I can also buy into that too. I know for me, I've been saying for a long time that I wanted to sell my Xbox One because it's only collecting dust, and I just haven't fucking done it. I really need to. The extra money would be helpful, because literally, like, I only have my PS4 for streaming right now. Like, I am not often in the mood to play it just for fun. I was excited for The Last of Us, and The Last of Us has not... I will say this, the last couple Last of Us streams I did were lit, and everybody kept me really happy, so I'm thankful for that. But I am not going to sit here and lie and tell you that I am playing it outside of streams, because I'm not. So, like, if it weren't for that, I'd be selling it too. But...
yeah, like, I also want to sell my Xbox, because... I have the Halo 5 edition, so like it might actually bring some more money later on to like a collector or something. So like I kind of want to go ahead and sell it, because like now is basically the time, because the next gen's about to come out.
Yeah.
But also in my case, I feel like I could maybe wait, because like I said, maybe a collector would want it later down the line.
Yeah.
Or I'm kind of a collector myself, so I might just wind up keeping it, especially if I can only get like $100 or something for it. I'd just be like, nah, fuck it. Like, I'll just hold on to it.
Shakuras has suggested the only patch note that matters, which
now, I do agree with this.
Hey, as a Microsoft patch note, their naming scheme fucking sucks.
Absolutely. 100%. I used to think Nintendo was the worst, and they're still pretty motherfucking close. But, come on now. Microsoft is topping it right now.
I saw an infographic today that was like, here's the reasoning behind this naming system. And it's just like, okay, seeing it as a fucking Zelda timeline map, I guess I get it now. But is that necessary?
Yeah. It's so silly. Like, they name their shit like the way that like Cisco would name different routers and shit. You know, it's just numbers and serial numbers at this point. Just like, oh, this is the Xbox 187X. Like, you know.
Video game naming and the trends of like art names has been fascinating to me, because, you know, we've also seen in the past decade, like, Disney movies went from having names to having single concepts or emotions as their titles. like we went from like Princess and the Frog to like Tangled, Frozen, Brave.
Well, what's hilarious about that to me is a lot of anime these days is the complete fucking opposite of that. It'll be like a whole damn sentence now, and I hate that shit. Yeah, light novel titles, like, big time, man. It'll be like, oh, today I went to school, but I tripped on a log instead. Episode 4. Like, it's so silly. Now, that doesn't mean they suck. Like, a lot of those long-ass named anime are still good, but, like, come on, man. Like, just give it a normal name, please.
Yeah. But kind of what I was getting at was, like, it's been interesting watching those naming trends, because in that same vein of the very simple names, I remember that the theory before the Xbox One dropped was that they were just going to call it Xbox, because a lot of brands were going towards very simple branding. And, I think that could have potentially been bad too, because I think that'd be even more confusing than Xbox One. But then they did what they did anyway.
That's where I think Sony never derailed with their naming system. Like, it's just the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, like, just whatever the highest number is the newest version of that, with
and you know
maybe
what?
Pro thrown on the end of it.
We might tack a word on the end.
Yeah. Now where Xbox fucked up and they can't do that anymore, which is maybe why this is such a tangled mess, was naming it the fucking Xbox One.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like, and I don't even think, like, even if both Sony and Microsoft were both doing, Xbox number and PlayStation number, I can't, for some reason, I cannot imagine Nintendo doing that, because they've always had creative names of being like, I like the Switch, like the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo GameCube, the Nintendo 64, like that was a number, but it meant something different.
Yeah, it meant something different.
Yeah. Like the Super Nintendo, all that shit. Like, I love those names until they got to the Wii was just weird, but then the Wii U is where everybody was just like, okay.
I still think the Wii U was an even dumber name than the Xbox One.
Oh yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'm just glad they didn't continue to do that, and they actually named it the Switch. Like, as much as I don't particularly care for the Switch, I'm glad it doesn't have a super dumbass name.
Yeah.
Like the Switch U, or I don't fucking know, whatever.
I think that we are moving towards, and I don't know if I like it, but we are moving towards the generational upgrades being smaller and more frequent, as we saw with the last console run, or this current one anyway, having those little mini step ups, like, your pro models and shit like that. And I think that might be part of why you're seeing the more router style naming of, well, this is just what iteration of Xbox One this is. And if that's the case, I kind of get the concept of, like, this is just an Xbox, this is just a PlayStation, it's just like the 2020 model per se. The only place that kind of develops a hang up is because traditionally our games have been based on a generational architecture and not just like system requirements, right? So that winds up kind of looking confusing to me.
See, I would have been okay with the Xbox 720, like Shakuras just brought up the rumors of the 720. Like, at least it followed like a scheme, instead of fucking Xbox One, Xbox One X, blah, blah, blah. I think they've kind of shot themselves in the foot, both feet, really. They dropped the ball on fucking their launch titles, and their launch window is completely just butterfucked. And then I don't think Game Pass is going to help them move a lot of Xbox Series X models. Now, it might move a lot of S's because that thing's built for Game Pass. It's clearly built for Game Pass. But, I'll be excited to see how well they sell compared to the PS5 this holiday. Not sponsored, by the way.
All right. I want to get sponsored by those goddamn mail-order chicken nuggets. Have you seen these?
No.
Let's talk about them. We don't have to. This is a completely different kind of podcast. Let's mail-order chicken nuggets. I tweeted about it. Go check out my Twitter sometime.
Listen, all I'm saying is right now, like, I don't keep up with politics a lot because I hate that shit. But, like, occasionally I'll see that, like, oh, we can't vote through the mail because they're fucking hiding the mail. What if I don't get my chicken nuggets?
Oh, man. Okay, so Nintendo patch notes. Chase mentioned earlier that if he had to guess, that I would probably be leaning more towards Nintendo fanboy than anything else right now. And that is absolutely true. And it's for the biggest reason that Chase actually dislikes his Switch. Because Chase has often cited that the Switch is just a port machine right now. And the only difference between me and Chase is that Chase doesn't like playing those games portably, but I do. So to me, it's kind of like current gen games are getting ported left and right to a fucking PSP. Like, that's something I think that you can relate to, because we both had a PSP and we liked our PSP, and we were surprised at how many like current gen titles had PSP versions that were not that different. But to me, it's like, there are a lot of games that I'm interested in, but my attention span is so fucking short that I can't convince myself to sit down and play it in longer bursts. But I will play it in short bursts between chores in my house, laying down naked, like, you know, with my Switch. So, like, it's really more of a comfort thing for me. Like, purely a comfort thing for me.
Yeah.
A lot of my favorite games right now are not Switch exclusives. They're just games that I'm like, ooh, I think I could play that for 15 minutes at a time in my underwear.
Yeah. See, and like you said, I would definitely identify with that going along with the PSP analogy. I guess it's not really an analogy, but you know what I mean. Like
metaphor, I think, is what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. Like, we absolutely used our PSPs that way, and I would absolutely use my Switch that way if I were still in high school. And yeah. I think that's where the Switch excels for people who have to, like, they travel a lot for work, you know, or like there's still kids in high school or even college kids. You could play it between classes. I ain't saying you got to be a child for this.
Yeah.
But like if you're out of your house a lot and you can carry your Switch with you and play it, man, more power to you. That's where I see the portability being a big fuck yeah. But like, I can't wrap my head around at all being like, fuck yeah, dude, I can play 15 feet away from my TV. Like, I don't want to play it in the other fucking room. I want to play it on my 60-inch TV. Like, and I can't get it, man.
And that's my thing, is that because Switch games don't look good to begin with, so I don't care if it's on my TV or not. And I think a lot of it also comes down to, maybe my furniture in my living room and in my office isn't as comfortable as yours, because I don't want to be sitting upright while I play video games. I want to be laying down. Like, I want to be sprawled out.
That's why you got to get to be all about that recliner life.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need a lazy boy or something, some badass shit like that.
Jesse got them lumbar support issues. You are not wrong. If anybody is listening who would like to sponsor us, you know, we have a good friend who was talking about possibly getting us the merch hookup on computer related shit that I need to follow up on, because I need a chair.
Yeah, I need a chair. If I showed you guys my chair, you'd fucking, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna take a picture of my chair and show you this piece of shit.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and drag this over so that it can go into the video. Jesse, You should buy a box of those nuggets and review them. You know what? I should. Co-op Kitchen episode 1, mail order nugs.
That's not even cooking. Well, I guess you still gotta cook them. Here's my piece of shit chair that I've had forever. This is what I sit in still.
Oh god, that's funny.
And let me tell you the even more embarrassing part. I got this bitch for free. I didn't even pay for this thing, so I'm not even like financially attached to it. I just haven't got around to getting another fucking chair yet. Like, I legit need to, because I hate this thing. It's not that I love it, I just haven't gotten one yet.
Likewise, a couple years ago, I was in dire need of a new computer chair, and my cousin was like, hey, well, you can just have mine. I think it used to belong to you. And sure enough, she gave me back my even shittier chair from before the one I was trying to get rid of.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. I have a really good office chair at work, because there for a while, everybody in the tech department, like, we were sitting on basically just pieces of shit like what I just posted. Like, this chair isn't uncomfortable, but like, the stuff we were sitting on at work was uncomfortable. And when our boss finally found out about it, he was just like, fuck, I didn't know you guys were sitting on bullshit like this. Like, I'm not out in the tech hubs a lot. Like, you need to let me know this kind of stuff. And so he took us to a place here in town and was just like, pick out a chair. You can get whatever the fuck you want, basically. And so we all picked out a chair and got it. And that chair is badass. If I could I might just get one just like it. Like, I legitimately love that fucking chair that I have at work. So I really want it. No, it's not a DX racer. I actually do not like the way those look.
All right, that was a nice aside. But going back to Switch stuff, so that kind of places the correct frame of reference for why I like my Switch so much, because like I just think it's a really good platform for playing games that I feel like are nostalgic enough to run on a not very powerful piece of hardware, but pretty enough to feel like I've almost got like a modded Game Boy. So like that's kind of what I'm looking for in Switch games. But in terms of like things that I would improve moving forward, in spite of the fact that I don't really care about the visuals of my Switch, I am fully on the chase train of where the fuck is the Pro model Switch. Like where is the one that is not handheld at all and is a more powerful console?
Yeah, and I didn't want to get into this until later, but there's a shitload of rumors right now about the next Switch, like Pro or whatever, about to come out. Now I know they've been out for a while, but like there's a lot of leaks right now of Nintendo telling their developers, "Hey, start getting your games 4K ready," because that's where we're going. And that's hype, man. Like that would be cool, but there's no fucking way I'm giving you another $200 or $300 so I can potentially get another Pokemon Sword and Shield looking bullshit. Yeah. Like you can't. I can't trust you guys at this point.
I think that a lot of console devs are starting to look at their games like PC games in the fact that it's just got like graphics settings, like depending on what piece of hardware you're playing it on. And I could sincerely see that Pokemon just looking better if they put it on a more powerful console, like just to upgrade the fucking textures. Problem is that we've already talked in 1,000 podcasts before about how they already have games on that same hardware that doesn't have textures that shitty.
Yeah, and I mean that, I've said this before, probably in one of the other podcasts, but Pokemon Sword and Shield was absolutely a DS game.
Yeah,
like it 100% was a DS game, and they ported it last minute. So like, I don't think those two can be fixed at this point, even with a new machine. They're just gonna have to not do this again next time, because there's not gonna be a DS, hopefully, to port from. Like maybe the next Pokemon game will actually be the first console one.
Yeah.
But something I'd like to point out now that we're already past Microsoft, and we're kind of, into the territory of making fun of Nintendo, is this new Xbox Series X, as much as they have, no games to play, blah, blah, whatever, that damn thing does 1440p, 60 FPS, or 120 FPS, I think, and it costs the same amount as a Switch.
Yep.
That's insane. Like, unless they're lying about the performance, which I don't expect them to, but I mean, you could either pay, it's the same fucking price, and look at how crazily it outperforms the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Now, I can't take it, in my bedroom and play it the same way, but like, for people like me, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, but like that just blows my mind. That's how out of touch Nintendo is, and that can be our next little bullet point of like they're so out of touch, it's crazy. What's it called? The syndrome?
It's called Galapagos syndrome. Those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a while have heard me say it. But it's whenever a company or developer or whatever is so narrow-minded and about where they live and the particular demographic that they're marketing to only as it pertains to their immediate neighbors, that they have no context or willingness to understand people in the larger world. Yeah. And a frequent example that we refer to is that true story of developers trying to explain stuff to the Nintendo devs using Xbox Live as a comparison, and them finally telling them to stop using that as a comparison because none of them played Xbox Live. And it's just like, y'all, you're fucking game developers. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, and something that I watched Maximilian Dude's reaction to the Xbox Series S earlier, and something he said that I want to say real quick is he's just like, I don't particularly care about this Series S thing, but it's good that Microsoft's bringing this competition, because this might make Sony and Nintendo like get on their shit about their own streaming, not streaming service, but like Game Pass type thing.
Yeah. Well, one thing is that, like, you know, whenever Nintendo started doing their paid online service, a lot of people are like, God, what the fuck? You guys too now? And you're not even going to offer good online? But what they offer instead is essentially a watered down version of their virtual console as a subscription service. And as that expands, it becomes more worth it. Because I do like... Yeah. I do like that anytime I want to play some retro games, I don't have to go, like, set up my emulators, which wouldn't take long. But, you know, I can be like, okay, well, now I'm playing Nintendo games courtesy of money I already paid to Nintendo. I guess that's a good thing, right? You know?
Yeah, that's literally the only good thing I like about their online. Because Nintendo is the only company out there I know that will ship a console with no LAN port and then tell you need to not play Smash Bros. Wireless, and then sell you a fucking LAN port. So, like, fuck off, man. Like, you know, they're just bleeding you dry out here. Like, look at the price of Joy-Cons and shit like that, and how fucked up they are with their drift and shit. Like,
I am just absolutely mind blown that they didn't fix that before releasing the Switch Lite, because like that can't, you know, you get Joy-Con drift on the primary model Switch, you just get new Joy-Cons. You get Joy-Con drift on a fucking Switch Lite, you're out a Switch Lite. You have to either get it repaired or fucking sell it and get a new one. So
yeah, and what's funny, I might have read this wrong, so this is going on very little research, but the other day I seen something about that the new Mario pack that's coming out. That version of Galaxy is gonna require Joy-Cons. So good luck, Lite players. Like, I guess you're gonna have to buy a fucking Joy-Con.
I will say part of me gets it, because so much of that game on the Wii was based on like Wiimote input. And I will also say that that's one thing that's really bothered me about trying to play Super Mario Odyssey on my Lite, because I was going to start over. I was going to start a new file and just re-enjoy Mario Odyssey, except there's a lot of moves you can't do at all unless you're using it in Joy-Con mode. And I could play it with Joy-Cons if I wanted to, but that is not why I play on my Lite.
Yeah.
So that's been really frustrating. I don't think that there's an excuse for that. I think that it does need to be just something that can easily be switched over to where, whether or not you're playing it in just regular controller mode or you're playing it in like motion detection mode. Like, for example, it is completely possible to beat Super Mario Odyssey without using the motion controls. It's just not as fun because you're not getting all of your functionality. You know, the Frog Mario can do like an extra high jump with the motion controls. But if I'm playing on Switch Lite, I just have to not do that.
Yeah, you just can't. Yeah. I don't know. Like, Nintendo is so behind the curve at basically everything except their IPs.
Yeah.
And even then, they slip every now and then. Like I haven't played Odyssey, but it looks good.
Odyssey's worth. I really enjoy it, but like I said, you do have to play it with Joy-Cons.
Yeah, and I'd like to play it if it would ever go on sale, but you know, it's a Mario game, so of course it's not going to. Yeah. Well, not for any substantial amount. It'll go on sale for like $10 off. That ain't doing it for me. But what I was going to get at is, you know, they're so behind the curve with stuff like online, which we've already talked about. You know, like it's so shitty. It doesn't even have a voice. Like you got to use your fucking phone and all this other stuff just to talk to people, and like. How ridiculous is that? I mean, hell, do you remember when me and you had to buy that external microphone that worked only with the Nintendo Wii when we played Monster Hunter Tri? Do you remember those pieces of shit?
I barely remember this.
Yeah, we used them for like a day.
And then we were like, no, we're using Skype.
Yeah, we just used Skype.
Yep. There was a Monster Hunter game on the fucking Wii. Before Monster Hunter World, that was the one that we played the most. We played the port of Monster Hunter Tri on Wii.
Yeah, Tri is one of the best ones. Like, well, Tri Ultimate, whichever version of Try was the like most complete.
It did not have motion controls.
No, it did not. It played with the Pro controller or whatever.
Yeah, that was one of the first instances. You see, this was before, like, we were doing Bro Op, but we weren't recording that because we didn't really have the means to. But even though it had nothing to do with Bro Op, it was one of our first instances of not being able to progress because one of us was enjoying the game less than the other. And that's been a trend for a long time because I was not enjoying the game well enough to play it single player, and that just froze our progress because we couldn't do multiplayer until I played more single player. So it was just dead in the water. As for Switch stuff,
like, what do you not like about it? Like, I feel like this is where...
What do I not like about the Switch?
Yeah, where you can talk about the Switch the way I talked about Sony.
Okay, yeah.
We're both on the same page about Microsoft, but probably opposites of these two.
Well, is mine close to me? My big one's close to me. My small one is in the living room right now. There is a weirdness about holding it and playing it. I think that the way that they did the Joy-Cons as being like these asymmetrical devices that unplug into their own controllers is honestly genius. And now that I'm open about being a teacher, it was super helpful for just like improvised multiplayer. Like, I'm no longer in a situation where I myself am a kid and can just whip out a Switch and be like, let's play games. But kids would do that. When I've subbed since then, or when I've been in, sort of ancillary roles since then, I've seen kids sitting in the floor on their breaks playing their Nintendo Switch multiplayer with other people. And playing single Joy-Con Smash is a little painful, but it almost feels like a welcome challenge in a way, because it's just like, damn, this itty-bitty controller kind of works.
Yeah, me and William have done that. Like, he come to my house one time and forgot his like HDMI cable or something. And then when I say my house, I mean my parents.
Right.
I was home visiting them. That's back when he still lived there. So I didn't have an extra HDMI anywhere in the house. Like, I couldn't find one. So we had to play on his Switch screen with the Joy-Con.
Yeah.
So it was rough, but we still played it. Like, it worked,
Yeah, and you kind of get a feel for it. And there for a while, I wanted to get good at playing that way, because then I would be able to whoop ass on a student anytime I needed to. And it did get to the point to where whenever end of year came around and people thought they were going to put me in the dirt in Smash Brothers, they did not. So that was pretty nice.
Yep.
But there are some downsides. Like, I just found my other one. It was actually just farther back in my room, and I don't know, man. I love this thing. So my Switch Lite is the Pokemon Special Edition one, which is the coolest looking one in my opinion, because it's got the light blue elements on the one side and the kind of like neon. What would you call that color? It's not maroon, because maroon's like a darker color, but it's like that weird red pink, right? That color reminds me a lot of the buttons on the original Game Boy. And because it's also gray, I've got a lot of nostalgia for the way that this one looks. Like, I have mentioned before about how this thing is just a toy to me. Like, it's a toy that I can play games on. But I think I would also be that kid that would just pretend to play on it, even if I didn't have games. Because I just love holding this thing. As for things I don't like about it, let's go ahead and boot mine up real quick. I have talked about this whenever we were talking about the Xbox. They need to get their head out of their ass when it comes to their digital rights. Like, right now, multiple members of Bro Op who have Nintendo Switches are on the same shared family plan, and that has been beneficial. I think that's a good value. It should also allow you to share games between those people, because
I think that would be a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, because like, I made it a point to get Animal Crossing on my Switch Lite because I knew that's where I was going to be playing it the most. But then I made I made the Switch Lite my primary. No, wait, I made the home console my primary console so that Candy could play Animal Crossing when she wanted to, because that's the only way to do it, to where it doesn't say you don't own this game. If the other Switch is the primary Switch, it will let her play my copy from her profile just fine. But what that now makes me do is I cannot play digital games on my handheld Switch unless I'm connected to the internet. And I regret doing that, because that kind of defeats the purpose of having it handheld, because now I have to be within the vicinity of Wi-Fi. So, what the fuck? And in order to switch that around, you have to change which one is set to your primary Switch, and you can only do that once every, year. So, it's just kind of this weird up and down that could be resolved by just going ahead and letting you have some sort of family share plan, similar to what Steam already does. Oh, you've posted a picture of your Switch. This is the dark gray model with the gray buttons. I like that one a lot, too. If I hadn't gotten the one that I have now, I probably would have gotten the yellow one or the teal one. I like them both quite a bit. I think the colors that they came out with for the Switch Lights were kind of weird, but at the same time, I really do think that they were trying to appeal towards girls with those colors, because they're kind of like pastel colors. And I don't know, they're cute. The yellow one reminds me of the Pokemon Yellow Edition Game Boy Color.
Yeah, that's something I'm surprised Nintendo has slipped on. And it's not even necessarily a problem. It's just I'm surprised they didn't capitalize on it. For people like me and you, if they had come out with an atomic purple one, you bet your ass we'd have that one.
Yes, absolutely.
Or like the glacier blue ones or something. Well, where's all those cool ass 90s colors?
Yeah. Well, I very nearly paid for somebody to make me a modded one, because I saw a lot of really cool case mods. And when I first started working with Chrono, they did a giveaway for a Chrono themed one that was purple hardware with teal buttons, and that's already my aesthetic lately, because whenever I adapted the Gatsby personality, I kind of got a boner for purple. And whenever I got together with Candy, her go-to color is that teal cyan color. So I was just like, oh my god, this is everything. But of course that was a giveaway Switch that I couldn't enter the giveaway because I worked for them. So
yeah, it's unfortunate.
But yeah, that was pretty interesting. Why didn't you have Laz enter then? You know that's not how it works. They know she's my wife. They especially know because they bought us a bunch of stuff off our wedding registry.
Get divorced.
Yay, there we go. Then we have,
and then remarry. See, then they got to buy you stuff again, dude. You got to think.
In additional patch notes, I don't necessarily know why they would do this, because I don't know that anybody really used it on the 3DS. But you know that game sharing functionality that handhelds used to have, where you could download a demo of the game from somebody else and play multiplayer with them even if you didn't have the game?
Oh yeah, we used to have a Mario Kart, didn't we?
Exactly. Why don't we have that anymore?
Yeah, that would be. There's so many things that didn't come over from the DS that I'm very surprised of, because this replaced the DS. And one of them, Chris just mentioned it, was fucking Street Pass. When I used to go to anime, well, I mean, I still go to anime conventions, but when I used to carry my 3DS with me, dude, you would get a million Street Passes at places like that. And that was cool, because you had all these people that you didn't know that now you could trade Pokemon with, or fucking do whatever with. And I do not understand why the Switch doesn't have that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't benefit from it because I don't carry it anywhere. But the people that do, I'm shocked that Street Pass isn't there.
Well, I think another piece of that is that Nintendo has kind of finally opened up on the mobile front. So a lot of their ideas that were previously relegated to whatever their handheld device was at the time have kind of gotten funneled into things like Pokemon Go and stuff like that, which, I don't play it anymore, but I also don't completely chastise it. I think that it's made some strides and it's fun for some people. I just think they stopped too short of the potential that games like that have.
Yeah.
And there's not necessarily any reason you couldn't continue to do that kind of stuff on your handhelds. Likewise, like you could have interaction between your mobile and your Switch version of a game or something like that. The gotchification of Nintendo mobile games, Shakura says. I think that there's some value to those games in certain contexts. Like, for example, I don't know if they ever did it, but they had talked for a long time about you being able to transfer your Pokemon between Pokemon Go and the mainline series of the games. And to me, that's interesting because that's more about the experience you've had at that point, right? Like if I catch for alligator on a college campus on a date with my wife, and that creates like a memory for me, and that allows, and then I can in turn transfer that to my actual console version of the game. That's just something that I enjoy. Like that's just something cute that I enjoy purely for no reason other than it's something that I can do. Does that justify them coding it into the game? No, because they can't make more money off of that. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean they are. I was reading an article the other day. I can't remember how much money they have, but it's substantial. But Nintendo was recently named the most the richest company in Japan. Like period.
Wow.
Like they have more money than anyone else in Japan.
That's crazy.
And I mean it makes sense. I mean they've been around since Adam and Eve. So like.
Yeah, Shaq, Sony is also Japanese. That's part of why that surprises me so much, because Sony deals with more than just video games. But
you also got to think that Nintendo has always had money in the bank, always. That's something I've always heard about them, is that they keep a shitload of money in the bank. Maybe it wasn't that they were the richest as in currently bringing in, but they had the most amassed.
Yeah.
All right, so what all have we covered that they do shitty?
We covered how shitty their online is.
Their online's terrible. They used to be known for, build a fucking tank out of Nintendium, then nothing can hurt it. And now, their Joy-Cons are fucking $80 and they drift, and I'm surprised they haven't been sued over it and, lost a lot of money yet. So, they're not as up to speed on their hardware anymore. What about the screen? Like, how do you feel about the Switch's screen?
I like it.
Is it good for you?
I like it, yeah. But I will say this. I like the screen of the Lite better, and I don't know how to describe why. I feel like the screen of my big Switch has somewhat yellowed, and I don't know how that happened, nor do I really care, because Candy's the one that plays that one. So she will never notice it. She doesn't she doesn't notice that she has 2 Steam accounts, let alone that her screen is yellowed. So the Lite is a pretty nice little screen.
Yeah. I know something else we can talk about in a minute. First, I want to answer Shakura's. He says, Chase, how do you feel about the Breath of the Wild Hyrule Warriors game that recently got announced? I don't know if you've seen this or not, Jesse.
I have. I was curious how you felt about it.
I had the first Hyrule Warriors. I had it on Wii U. I had that a long time before the Switch was even a thing, I think. Oh, whatever. It's back when Rhett worked at that game store. I went and traded in I don't know, fucking every DVD I own, because who the fuck buys movies anymore? Yeah. I traded in all those motherfuckers, and I bought Hyrule Warriors with it, and I actually really liked that game. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a little strange to me that this new one is, they're just straight up okay, this is all Breath of the Wild. That was the cool thing about Hyrule Warriors to me, is I could play as anybody. I could play as Ganon and people from different eras. You could play as could you play as Skull Kid? Didn't they eventually add Skull Kid?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because like you said, there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So you could play as all these different Zelda characters from all the different timelines, and that's what's the coolest thing to me about Hyrule Warriors. So I was hoping for a sequel, because Dynasty Warriors is just the same fucking thing every time basically. It's like Madden or FIFA. It's just the new version of it. So I kind of expected that with this, and I didn't expect them to go into just Breath of the Wild territory with it. But it is cool that they're just you know what, we had 100 years skipped, and we only talked about this war, so let's let them fucking play it. That's kind of neat. I probably won't buy it, because you guys know how I feel about Breath of the Wild anyway. But I might get it later on down the road if I can get a used copy for cheap, like I did the original one.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think so many reviews of Breath of the Wild that were negative brought up the flashbacks to the period of time before the game and had the same criticism, which was, why aren't we playing this story? This story seems so much more interesting than the empty fucking hollow story you're giving me. And I feel like at some point they said, okay, so we have to make this game, or we could just subsidize that out to the Dynasty Warriors guys.
Yeah.
That's what happened. They're just like, hey, let's make this as a spinoff to build hype for Breath of the Wild 2, and there we go.
Okay, here's the other thing I want to talk about of Nintendo that has recently been pissing off a lot of fans is but it's a, what is it, a double-edged blade,
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, double-edged sword. It's kind of that situation, like where the hell are the directs, man? Like, I'm tired of these little mini directs that announce a bunch of indie games that no one fucking cares about, and then maybe something cool like this Hyrule Warriors game, and they'll be like, oh, it comes out in a month.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part of it that people are really digging, them just being like, okay, here's this game, we're announcing it today, comes out in a month. You don't have to wait 6 months, you don't have to wait a year anymore. They really fucked up announcing Breath of the Wild 2 already, and like Metroid Prime 4 and like Bayonetta 3. Like, all that shit's vaporware right now for all we know, especially Metroid and Bayonetta. Like, at least Breath of the Wild had that cutscene that we got to see.
Yeah.
But like, there's been no more news about it. And Metroid Prime 4 has been announced 2 or 3 times. They're like, okay, we've completely scrapped it and we're redoing it. And it's just like, man, you announced this 3 years ago. Like you really fucked up with this. And I think they took that to heart. And now they're just like, well, fuck it. We're not gonna announce shit until it's ready. And a lot of people are like, hell yeah on that. But like, directs were hype, man.
They were. I just really think it's a sign of the times. I think Animal Crossing selling like 9 times more than they thought it would sell made them go, okay, so COVID's real as shit, and it's going to impact our business in a way that we should probably address. I really do think that the change in the way the press release type stuff has happened is purely related to like coronavirus's impact on the world and the way we purchase things. And so I think that for some reason that's beyond my understanding of marketing, they've essentially went, people lose hype over time now, and they watch 1,000 videos on why they shouldn't buy this game. So why don't we just fucking say, and it's out.
Yeah.
It's out right now.
Here's what I would prefer to them to do. I would prefer them to still do the big directs, but never, ever announce anything that they aren't for sure going to release in at the most 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Like, I think
then
that'd
if
be
it's
a good
delayed,
middle ground.
it can't be delayed more than like a fucking year,
Yeah, because like you don't want to do like they did with Breath of the Wild 2 and be like, hey, we're working on it. No fucking clue, and you're not gonna get any more. You're not gonna get any more information on it until probably a month before it's ready. At this rate.
Yeah.
And like you said, people lose hype over time. Like I really wanted to play Cyberpunk 2070, whatever the fuck it is, 2077. I still do, but I've lost all hype for it. Like, I'm not gonna get it at launch. I'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care. But I don't know. I just feel like that's a excellent middle ground for them to hit and be like, okay, we still have big directs to get people real hype, and we'll announce some DLC at them, and maybe a couple of big games that's coming in the next 6 months. But like, right now, what is there to be hyped for as a Switch owner? That's realistic.
You can get purple Joy-Cons now.
Great. And I mean, don't get me wrong. You could turn that question right around on me and say, well, what is there hype to be about the PS4 right now? And I would say it's at the end of its life cycle. Like, yeah. all the hype stuff has been in the last year. Like, they're toning that shit down. Like, the Switch is still very much alive and in like the middle of its life here. Might be getting an upgrade soon. That's just rumors, but like, Like what? Like there's nothing to look forward to right now to like the holiday lineup. They've got fucking nothing, and that blows my mind. That
Well, it also is sort of a consequence of the fact that like Nintendo willingly excused themselves from the console wars way back when they released their first console that was like halfway into a generation. Like what the Wii U that this started with?
it was the Wii U,
and then
the Wii launched with everything else,
and they have continued to be essentially like scaffolded midways, right? Like this console came out mid console generation, so this console is like a half a console generation behind, if not more, because it already wasn't up to technological par when it dropped, you know. But that was a choice they made on purpose. Like I think that they've probably really analyzed the market and went, okay, we have tried getting these hardcore fans away from the heavy hitters, and we really can't. We also shouldn't try because a lot of them buy our shit in tandem anyway. So we're just gonna literally take our ball and go home and build a better ball. Like, and so it's hard for me to compare Nintendo at this stage to anything Xbox and PlayStation are doing when they're clearly playing a different game.
Yeah, yeah, like they said, like you said, I'm gonna take my ball, go home, and build a different ball.
Yeah,
specifically for the Japanese. I mean, I'm not wrong. Like,
it's and now all I can see is somebody throwing a red basketball up into the air and it freeze framing onto a white background, and it's just the fucking Land of the Rising Sun.
There you go, dude.
All right,
get this man a marketing job,
please. I don't want to sling IV fluid in the basement anymore. Now, earlier on in this podcast, somebody, I don't remember who, asked if we were going to talk about Stadia. And I can't speak for you, Chase, but I would like to say no.
Stadia, they are inevitably going to abandon it like Google does with everything else.
Yeah.
Like anything they try to get into, they just give up on. Yeah. Like we've seen it 100 times. Stadia is fucked. Like it's no exception. Stadia is 100% fucked.
I just think that they need to sell the entire technology that they built to Xbox so that Xbox can essentially have their own platform similar to PlayStation Now. Like, I know they don't really need it, like, but you know, make this kind of waste of money. You gotta get a return on your investment somehow. I don't know. Maybe sell it to Nintendo since it's a streaming platform and Nintendo can't do shit. Like,
yeah, I mean, you also gotta think, man. Like, it's Google. They don't need their fucking money back.
Like, that's a valid point.
They've got like crazy fuck you money. Like, you know.
Yeah, I get that too. And I get the idea behind Stadia because at a time when, you know, we've been talking about it all podcast, at a time when it seems like consoles are transitioning into these little mini updates and these mini pissing contests of who has the most bleeding edge technology, Google was like, or hear me out, what if you could play any fucking game on any fucking device? Like, what if you could play Halo Infinite on a refrigerator door? Like, and yeah, if the technology works, go for it. But this motherfucker has played World of Warcraft on HughesNet satellite internet, and he knows that Stadia is probably going to feel like that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like you said, neither one of us have played it, but I've seen a lot of the bigger people like Linus Tech Tips and people like that talk about it, and they're just like, it's a cool idea, but like, no, man, like it ain't there.
Yeah. All right, but hear me out. Google Stadia in VR.
Shut the fuck up,
man. You would vomit twice and shit your pants because it would be exactly as Shaq has said, lag-induced motion sickness.
Yeah. Well, what? Okay. Well, let's step into Steam territory for just a minute, because like, do they do anything wrong? Like, do you guys think that like, other than Valve not making games anymore. Like that's the biggest thing I can think of is like we want Half-Life 3, and like I know they take a lot of fucking a large cut from the people that sell through their store. I know that's a quality a lot of people bitch about.
I know they completely abandoned everything that was cool about their Steam sales. Like,
that's true.
Like
they absolutely did.
For the past 2 or 3 years, Steam sales have been this hollow shell of what they used to be. And there's so many people that are getting into gaming now that are just like, oh my god, these sales are so great, but they don't even know how good they used to be. Shakura says, how did they used to be like? Well, now everything that's on sale for the summer sale is just on sale at that price for the entirety of the summer sale. But it used to be that every day was different deals, so it was like constantly something to keep checking the page for.
Yeah, now back then they did have deals that went week long or the whole time too. But they also had what he's talking about is called flash sales, and like the community could vote on stuff. And so like they'd get on like Reddit and shit or 4chan or wherever and be like, all right, everybody vote for this game so we can get it for like $2. And then, everybody would vote for it and it'd go on flash sale. And used to the Steam sales, the sale price during the summer and like winter sale, but especially summer sale, was a lower price than you could get it at any other time in the year. Like the sales you see during the summer sale is the same sale price you'll see any other time during the year. Like it just happens to be like a week and a half long instead of like a weekend or something,
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of get changing it, but I'm also just like, man, this isn't as cool as it used to be.
Yeah, I feel like Steam's doing, I don't know. I feel like what they do is fine. Like, it's whatever. It's Steam. It's been all digital for like what, a decade now, probably. Yeah. So like that's definitely, and Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo all see that. So like that's definitely the direction they're slowly trying to get to. So they ain't got to fuck with discs no more, or cartridges or whatever. Like they want that Steam cake.
Give me the Steam cake.
They want them digital cakeys. And yeah, Chris, I haven't had a PC that had a disk drive in like, I don't know. Probably like 2006.
I think, yeah, my current one doesn't have a disk drive. That's just the current Bro-Op build. The one before it, I did have a disk drive in.
Because, I mean, hell, even when you buy like operating systems these days, like they don't really come on disks anymore. Like they can, but like most of the time they'll just send you a fucking USB with an ISO on it. Like,
yeah.
Or like you can request that anyway. Like you don't even need a fucking disk drive anymore, unless you're trying to install some super old shit that only comes on it.
I'm gonna reinstall Lemmings.
Lemmings was good.
I loved Lemmings. Why can't more games be like Lemmings?
Why can't we have another Mega Man 1 and 2 race?
Chase, let's do it. Like, for those of you that haven't heard, the new and improved version of our game store is live. It is our Bro-Op Nexus, and it's essentially the online representation of our arcade. It's got links to all of our different pages that we use. It's got games that you can buy for yourself that also supports the channel, and got links to our merch. And one thing that I am trying to do is I'm trying to cover some of these games that I've put available in our store, and if I don't like them, I'm going to take them back out of our store. So like I'll play them. If they seem cool to you and to me, then maybe you can buy them from us through our store and you can enjoy them yourself. But if I play them and they're shitty, I will take them back down so that nobody makes the mistake of paying money for them. All right, so all the games are Jesse approved. Well, Jesse and Chase has input on this as well. The only difference there is when Chase and I were sitting down looking at the original list of games to go up, we only really agreed on like 2 that we for sure liked. So the 10 that are on there are just the starting set, essentially.
Yeah, some of them are kind of placeholders.
Yeah. All right, well, are we winding the old podcast down?
Well, I guess. Shit.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, for listening all the way through. If you are watching this either on Spotify or on YouTube, I will make sure there's a link to our arcade so you can find other ways to support us, join our Discord, pledge to us on Patreon if you're feeling froggy. And at some point, Chase, you and I can talk about possible different podcast hosting, because one of the things that Ashley Christ talks about on her podcast is a provider that automatically hosts it all to like basically every podcast supplier, and I think it might be significantly cheaper, if not free.
I was about to say, I know the last time we paid for it, it was retarded expensive.
Yeah, so we may have better options.
Yeah. And I would like to see the actual like numbers of Spotify, because if it ain't worth paying for it, then fuck it. Like,
again, I think there may be a way for us to do it for free, so something worth looking into. So again, thank you so much for listening. Appreciate you guys. Chase, how are we gonna end this one?
Tony Hawk's a pretty cool guy.
Before you leave, do you
already gone?
You're already gone?